Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. A coaching carousel is in full swing. Unless something weird happens, only one job in the SEC even opens, and it got filled quick. Because how about this? Shawn Miller is officially the head coach at Texas. So let's backtrack a little bit, okay? So first of all, hold on one second. I need a swig of water. Okay, so if you go back, I think the last 2.5, 3 weeks, we've talked, well, and by the way, let me even backtrack even more. I said Texas is maybe the only job that's going to open. We'll see. You know, there's rumors that Buzz Williams with the senior-laden team might be trying to get out. Porter Mosier, maybe a candidate at Villanova. So let's pump the brakes on this. There's only going to be one SEC job opening, okay? But at the same time, you go back a few weeks, we started talking about Will Wade. And I said, you know, Will Wade, I think, has the NC State job, but I think he's going to wait to see if Texas is open. So I bring it up because the expectation all spring was that Texas was eventually going to open. Listen, Rodney Terry is a great guy, but we all know the circumstances in which he got the job. Chris Beard gets fired. He's the interim head coach, and he basically needed a great NCAA tournament run for him to even keep the job in 2023. He gets it. They go to the Elite Eight. They fall one game short of going to the Final Four. They lose to Miami in the Elite Eight. And so last year they make the tournament, but this year it was kind of like, okay, we're giving you plenty of NIL money. If you can't get this program, you know, really in pretty good position, we're just going to move on. And so we knew Rodney Terry was going to move on. When Will Wade officially accepted the NC State job, I had a pretty good idea that Texas, if they were going to fire Rodney Terry, certainly had the next candidate in mind. It was Shawn Miller. I think it was always Shawn Miller. By the way, I think that's part of the reason why Will Wade made it official with NC State. He knew he wasn't very high up on the Texas pecking order. And so Shawn Miller is officially the Texas head coach. And so to me, let me just say this. Let me not beat around the bush. Let me get right to the point. I think Shawn Miller is going to murder in the SEC, okay? And I think he's going to murder specifically at Texas, okay? And listen, he's got a very interesting career arc. I think everybody kind of knows the background. He was at Arizona for a long time, caught up in the FBI stuff. I think one of the reasons that Shawn likes me is because I kind of defended him. If you go back and look at some of the FBI stuff, it was kind of nonsense. He was accused of some stuff that had nothing to do with him, and it was later bared out that way. But if you look at what he did at Arizona, this guy went to 3 Elite Eights and 5 Sweet 16s in his time at Arizona from 2009, 2010 to 2021. I think the crazy part about it was, one, he was an elite recruiter. Two, what I thought was so interesting, this is the kind of guy that Shawn Miller is that even when the FBI stuff was going on, he brings in a recruiting class that features Nico Mannion and Josh Green, 2 McDonald's All-Americans. Then the following year, American kids are afraid to commit to him because they don't know what's going on with the NCAA. He goes out, completely flips his recruiting philosophy in one offseason, gets Kirk Risa, gets Azuolas Tubelis, puts together this monster international class. And the one thing I'll tell you about Shawn Miller, one, the guy is a winner, okay? This is a guy, like I said, four Elite Eights total in his career. 1 at Xavier many years ago, and then 3 at Arizona. In the Arizona reign, 2 of the Arizona Elite Eight appearances came down to the final play of the game. 2011 against UConn, 2014 against Wisconsin in a game that I was at. And I bring it up because everyone's going to say, oh, he's never made a Final Four. He's made 4 Elite Eights and like 7 or 8 Sweet 16s. The guy knows how to coach. And the one thing I'll say, not only is he a great coach, I think he is I know for a fact he's a great recruiter. I'll tell you a quick side story. I live on the West Coast, okay? And when he had it rolling at Arizona, I live in LA. And so I'm around not only Arizona, but I'm around UCLA and USC a lot. And the one thing that everybody told me is that when he had it rolling at the highest level at Arizona, you know what they used to say to me about Shawn Miller? They used to say that Shawn Miller is a head coach who recruits like an assistant. In other words, he's making all the extra phone calls. He's making all the extra contacts. He's touching base with mom. He's touching base with grandma. He's making sure blah, 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 this and that. And this was all in the pre-NIL era. Now, as far as Xavier's concerned, I think it's kind of worth noting. He goes to Xavier, has them in the Sweet 16 in year one. Last year deals with a million injuries and then gets them back to the NCAA tournament this year, where of course he knocks off Texas in the first four before losing on Friday night to Illinois. And so I know the Xavier run wasn't incredible, but here's the other reality. I just think Xavier was working with some resources that weren't very good compared to the rest of college basketball. And I do think this is kind of a sad byproduct of the NIL era, is I think the top of the sport, the cream is going to continue to rise. We talked about 7 SEC teams in the Sweet 16. Well, guess what? The entire Sweet 16 is SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and ACC teams. There are no mid-majors. There are no Mountain West. There are no A10. There are no completely off. And it's just because the sport is starting to separate itself. And so with Shawn, I think that he saw the writing on the wall at Xavier. It's crazy, by the way, how quickly a couple years can change things. When he took the Xavier job, this is a fact. He had an offer from South Carolina. And I think he felt like I can win at Xavier more than I can win at South Carolina in that crazy SEC. But now we see it's all about NIL. And with the way the net is set up, there's no downside to being the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th best team in the SEC. You're going to make the tournament anyway. And so you take a guy that's an elite game day coach. You take a guy that is an elite recruiter, and you put him at a job that I believe, we've been saying it for probably 20 years in college basketball. Texas is a sleeping giant. They just need somebody to wake them up. I remember when Chris Beard took the job, I kept saying, Chris Beard views Texas as a blue blood. It might not be a blue blood. It's not North Carolina. It's not Kentucky. It's not Kansas. But he's like, wait a second now. With all the money we got, with all the recruits in the state of Texas, I can win national championships here. And so we talked about it when Chris Beard had the job, and I think it's the same with Shawn Miller. I think, look, if this was the old days, I think he would have been happy staying at Xavier, but this is an NIL world. I don't think they can compete at the highest level. They lost, by the way, last year, their best player, Desmond Claude, entered the portal and ended up at USC. And I just think he realized I can't win. I'm not going to have the resources to win at the highest levels at Xavier the way I'll be able to at Texas. So now, elite game day coach, elite recruiter, and he's going to Texas with the NIL that they have. Yeah, that's going to be a freaking problem, okay? And I think the one thing about Shawn Miller, he is going to have a game plan where Rodney Terry just felt like we have this money, let's spend it on whoever. And then you watch the team and it's like Jordan Poe, no disrespect, but like some of these guys don't fit. They play the same position. How does this work? How does that work? He's going to put together a game plan. But more than that, I just think he's going to have so many resources. Like I was telling somebody, like Shawn Miller at Texas, like they might mess up the whole NIL market for this offseason. Like if you think you had your budget all set, well, now Texas with the new head coach and aggressive recruiter in Shawn Miller, they might screw up the NIL market for everybody, okay? So Shawn Miller gets the goes from Xavier to Texas. I think he's going to be a beast there. Now, again, I said it to lead the show. I don't think John Calipari's shaking in his boots. I don't think Mark Pope and Rick Barnes and Bruce Pearl and Nate Oates, they see great coaches every single time they walk the sidelines. But Texas was the one. It's like if they get the right guy, that team is going to be a freaking problem. And I think they will be with Shawn Miller as their head coach.